Hello everybody, my name is Thomas W. Timbrooks and I'm running for the United States House of Representatives for Oregon's 6th Congressional District. Hello there, that's me. I look a lot like my picture, but I think I'm better looking in person. So for today, I wanted to talk about, well, several different subjects. I want to eventually get to the space program. I've changed my slides around a little bit. Oops, sorry. Eventually, I want to start talking about the space program, what we did just last week. A lot of people don't realize it, but we sent a spaceship to the moon and back. They didn't land on the moon. They just kind of went around the moon. They looked at it and they said, well, there's the moon. And I guess they took a couple of selfies. I mean, you had 4 astronauts and I mean, that's just like the ultimate selfie opportunity. So I'm assuming that you know, they took some selfies. You know, it's like, hey, here I am against the moon. Click. You know, I mean, it's not green screen. That's the moon. That's the real moon. You know. Anyways, so yeah, that eventually happened. But there's been a lot of stuff happening in the world, and I kind of wanted to cover that because, you know, as a United States House of Representatives, that's the one in Washington, D.C., every state has its own Congress with a state Senate and state House of Representatives. The one I'm running for is the United States House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., and every state is cut up into congressional districts, and each congressional district in the United States, I believe the population has to be around 780,000. But if you're a state and your population is less than 780,000, you still get 1 congressional representative. That's in the Constitution. That's Article 1 of the Constitution. Every state will have at least 1 representative in the House of Representatives. And when your state grows in population to you know, more than, you know, 780,000 or whatever the count is right now, then you'll get more people in the House of Representatives, okay? And what they do, every 10 years, they do a census, and they find out the population of the United States of America, and there are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. So they just take the whole population of the United States, and they divide it by 435, and then they say, okay, well, that population is, you know, in this particular case, now it's 780,000. I believe it's 780,000. You know, 50 years ago, when America's population was like, I think, 200 million, there would be significantly fewer people, but you would still have, you know, the same number of representatives in a state. Okay, let's say there's only 100 million people in America. You would still divide by the 435, and you'd get, okay, well, 100,000 people or 85,000 people per representative. And so that's how that works. Okay, so Oregon presently, I gotta make sure that microphone stays out like that. That way you can hear me better. Oregon presently has a population that merits 6 congressional representatives. That means there are 6 congressional districts in Oregon, and this one here that I'm living in happens to be the 6th congressional district. Now, the Constitution, Article 1 of the Constitution says that in order to be in the House of Representatives, in order to be a representative for a state, you have to live in the state. You don't necessarily have to live in the congressional district that you represent. So I do actually live in the congressional district that I represent, and I got to make sure that I'm on time here. I think I've spent about 5 minutes so far. Okay. So I'm going to keep an eye on the time. I don't want to be talking more than like an hour. Most people don't even, don't want to stick around for more than an hour. I mean, anyways, Oregon has 6 congressional representatives. Six Oregonians go to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. and create the laws that shape America's political framework, what we do as Americans. But more importantly, or just as important, Congress, the United States Congress in Washington, D.C., I have to keep saying that just to make sure, Article 1, I believe it's Section 6, says that Congress can levy taxes and spend whatever money that those taxes, so federal taxes are collected, federal taxes are created by Congress. So Congress comes along and says, we need this much money, so we're going to create this many taxes at a federal level. So Congress tells the executive branch, okay, executive branch, that's the President of the United States, we need this much money in taxes. It's up to you to figure out how to get it to us. And so the executive branch, goes through the IRS or whoever, and the IRS goes out and gets the money. And if somebody doesn't pay up, then the executive branch, they're law enforcement. They go out and get the money and everything. So that's kind of how that works. So the Congress in Washington, D.C. gets to decide how that money is spent. They get the money, they figure out how it's spent, okay? So 6 people, every 2 years, 6 people are elected in Oregon as representatives of the state to Washington, D.C. 1 person from each congressional district, okay? I want to be the representative from Oregon's 6th congressional district. All right. Now, I'm running as a write-in candidate for this particular election. There was a mix-up on the paperwork. This is the first time I've ever run for election. I got the wrong paperwork, and so I can only run as a write-in. So that's the whole thing. It's like if you know who I am and you know how to spell my name and you think that you would like me to go to Congress, represent the state of Oregon and Washington, D.C., then by all means, please write my name in. If not, just be sure and vote. But when you do vote, please make sure who you're voting for is somebody that that person can represent Oregon properly. And by represent Oregon properly, what I mean is Oregon has a lot of really amazing companies, really amazing people. And these people have terrific ideas. And some of those ideas would benefit greatly from federal funding. Okay, federal funding coming to Oregon to help Oregon companies and people living in Oregon to live a more prosperous existence through federal funding. And one example of this is something that people in Oregon created as a small modular reactor. And this is a nuclear reactor. It's the same kind of nuclear reactor that they put on like submarines and ships and like that. And this small modular reactor it's a terrific little thing. It provides a whole bunch of electricity, and it's a lot safer than the great big reactors like the one at 3 Mile Island is not a small modular reactor. It was a very large one, but that was the one that we hear about at 3 Mile Island. You hear bad stuff about it, but I mean that was back that was back in like 1980 something where they had the accident. There hasn't, Chernobyl was a completely different kind of reactor. They used a different kind of cooling system. Like a small modular reactor was developed by the people in Oregon in order to avoid the problems of the great big nuclear reactors. So the small modular reactor can't really produce as much electricity, but it is much, much safer than the other great big reactors. I was actually born and raised in Arizona, and in Arizona we have the Paul Avriti nuclear power plant. I believe it was 4 nuclear reactors, and when they came online, the cost of electricity just plummeted, and a lot of people moved to Arizona. And you move to Arizona, you have air conditioning, okay? And there are a whole bunch of people living in Arizona running their air conditioners 24/7, and they are not paying a whole bunch of money because the Paul Avriti nuclear power plant is capable of providing a whole bunch of electricity at a very low price. So nuclear power plants are actually, they're terrific things. The nuclear waste is another concern. And but anyways, I'm kind of getting away from the fact there. This is what people in Washington, D.C. do. And your representatives, somebody that I want to be your representative. The representatives that go to Washington, D.C. need to have really good ideas. And they have to be able to market those ideas. They have to be able to get consensus with the rest of Congress to get funding for those ideas, so that Oregon can be a more prosperous state, so that Oregon's 6th congressional district can be a more prosperous district. And that's what I'm saying is I want to make Oregon's 6th congressional district America's greatest congressional district. And I don't know why it is. This thing keeps on bending over like that. I don't actually know if it causes any problems, but the thing is, I think that every person in the House of Representatives should have that as their motto. They should say, I want to make my congressional district America's greatest congressional district, and this is how I'm going to do it. So, that's an idea that I want to share whenever, if you elect me, that's where I'll go. But anyways, that's why this whole video thing, I put out these videos, every week. I'll put out a new video. I try to put one out every week and talk to you, the voting public of Oregon, about my plans for, if I ever do end up in Washington, D.C. as one of your representatives, what kind of plans, what kind of ideas I have. And I want you to get to know me and figure out, who is this guy? And you got an emotional support clipboard here. Okay. So anyways, get on with the slides here. The core values that I have, my core values, and these are the core values of the Republican Party: limited government, local decision-making, free market economy, fiscal responsibility, and personal liberty and responsibility. Now, this is the part of the citizen, part number 5 there. The citizens' part in America is personal liberty and responsibility, which means the government isn't going to tell you what to do or what to think or how to live. That's going to be entirely up to you. So limited government, Democrats tend to prefer a larger government, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, there's an argument for either one. Local decision making, that's a good thing, but sometimes we need centralized decision making at the federal level, and that's a good thing too. There's an argument to be made there. The free market economy, it's capitalism, but I mean there is an argument for planned economy. So that's something that's negotiable. the fiscal responsibility, and it's not to say Democrats prefer fiscal irresponsibility. Democrats prefer something called strategic investment. The strategic investment it's exactly like I was talking about. If you take federal funds and you invest those funds strategically, then everybody in America wins. And remember the preamble to the Constitution. First of all, when America proclaimed independence from England, there was the Declaration of Independence, and in the Declaration of Independence, which is America's founding document, a lot of people are going to say the Constitution is the founding document. No, the Declaration of Independence is America's founding document. It's the document that Americans celebrate every 4th of July. The 4th of July commemorates the signing of the Declaration of Independence from England. In the Declaration of Independence, the very first part states that all humans are entitled to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that is these are human rights, the very basic human rights for all people in the world: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Gotta have some water here. Trust me, that's just water. It's not vodka or anything. Seriously, it's water. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So that is our Declaration of Independence. Now, in order to ensure that all Americans, and keeps on doing that, maybe I should clip it someplace else. I don't know. And get that. Hope I'm coming clear. In order for America's government to ensure that all American citizens have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, we need a process map. We need some kind of blueprint, some kind of written down method. So the Constitution serves as the roadmap that we use. It keeps on doing that. I don't know what's going on. Well. So the Constitution is really the roadmap that we use in order to ensure that all Americans get the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, protection of every human's right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So that's why we have the Constitution. That's why America lives by the Constitution. That's why we say America is not a democracy, it is a constitutional republic. And in a democracy, 51% of the people can tell 49% of the people what to do. In a constitutional republic, a minority of the people can actually not force is the wrong word, can I guess encourage the government to act in a way that 51% of the people aren't necessarily happy, but 100% of the people are living by the Constitution. Okay, so a constitutional republic is different than a democracy in that a democracy will only represent the majority, while the constitutional republic represents the majority and the minority and everybody in between. So that's why we have the Constitution. The Constitution is set up in a way that it allows America to be a constitutional republic instead of a democracy, and the Constitution is the roadmap that the government uses in order to ensure all Americans are granted the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that are proclaimed as human rights in the Declaration of Independence. So that's why we got all that. And anyway, so yeah, back to the core values. Fiscal responsibility. And like I said, that's a Republican core value, but the Democrat core value is strategic investment, which is good also. Okay, so one of the things that one of the things I want to ensure that people understand is that these are my core values: limited government, local decision-making, free market economy, fiscal responsibility, personal liberty and responsibility. But Democrat values are just as good, especially the one where, fiscal responsibility or strategic investment. Strategic investment is a very important part of being of the prosperity of America, of being part of a constitutional republic. Strategic investment, very important. Most Republicans, like myself, would just prefer fiscal responsibility, which means the government only collects the money that it absolutely needs and only spends the money that it absolutely has to spend. This is part of being a conservative. Being a conservative isn't always the best way. Sometimes being a liberal is a good way. And that's the idea. I want to get that across to the people of Oregon who might want to vote for me, is that just because I am a conservative Republican, it doesn't mean that I don't see the value of the side of the liberal Democrats. There is value in the way liberal Democrats want to run America, and I'm perfectly open to hearing what they have to say. So that's something that I want to get across to anybody who might vote for me. I really would like the opportunity to represent you in Congress. Anyways, this is something I want to cover here really quick. Insanity is a mental condition that prevents a person from fully understanding the consequences of an action and distinguishing right from wrong. There are two criteria in the definition of insanity. And the reason I want to say this is because you will hear people in Congress. I mean, these are people representing American citizens in Congress, and what they will tell you is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's not the definition of insanity. And I keep hearing this over and over and over again in Congress. And one of the first things I'm going to do, if I get to Washington, D.C., one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to post this. The definition of insanity is not doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The definition of insanity is a mental condition that prevents a person from being able to distinguish between right and wrong and prevents that person from understanding consequences to actions. So there's two criteria that have to be met in order for an act to be considered insane. Those two criteria. Now, what happened a long time ago in the 1980s, okay? While widely attributed to Albert Einstein, there is no evidence he ever said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The phrase likely originated in narcotics recovery literature from the 1980s, with 1983 usage in Rita Mae Brown's book, Sudden Death, attributing it to a character named Jane Fulton. Okay, so this book that Rita Mae Brown wrote took wisdom from narcotics recovery, people with addictive personalities. The literature they used to recover from narcotic addiction, one of the pieces of wisdom is, hey, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, well, that's kind of insane, don't you think? It's not a legal definition of insanity. It's just a piece of advice that people are given whenever they're trying to recover from narcotic addiction. Okay, so The legal definition of insanity is something different. So don't listen to anybody who tells you it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's not, okay? So anyhow, so global system, national challenge, and American capability. This is where I start my little slideshow. This is what I want to talk about now. Understanding how global and domestic systems interact and why distant events affect everyday life. Core idea: instability does not stay local. It travels through interconnected systems. The Strait of Hormuz. That's the first thing I want to talk about, Strait of Hormuz. Now remember, we're going to end up at the space program, okay? We're going to end up in outer space with the space program. That's where we're going to. Starting out with the Strait of Hormuz. Where is that? It's over there by Iran, Saudi Arabia, like that. For those of you who don't know your geography, it's over there. Africa's far there to the left, and Asia's to the right. Okay, so the Strait of Hormuz, that's over there by Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq and like that. This is the Persian Gulf. Okay, so this is ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see that right up there in one specific area where it kind of kinks up and goes into Iran, you'll see there aren't very many ships, and that's because right now the Iranian government is preventing ships from going through the Strait of Hormuz, which means that all of the stuff that ships have there on the right, it's not going to make it to where it has to go, and the stuff that the ships have on the left, it's not going to be able to make it through to where they have to go. So this is called a choke point, and Iran is exercising control over this choke point and preventing ships from going through, and that's a bad thing. So it's a narrow waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to global markets, one of the most critical energy choke points in the world. And why it matters is 20 to 25% of global oil supply passes through. Disruption affects the entire world economy. Iran's strategy is the control of a global choke point, ability to restrict or influence shipping. And this is really how Iran has its power. It keeps its power because it says, hey, we're just a country with a whole bunch of desert and some oil, but we still have influence. And the influence they have is kind of a negative influence. They're saying, do it our way, or we're going to control this choke point, and we're going to prevent ships from going through. Nah, that kind of thing. And the rest of the world doesn't really like it, but has to live with it because, I mean, what's the rest of the world going to do? You go to war against Iran, really, and that's not a good thing. Nobody wants to do that. That's one, mired down into one of those forever wars. So there's a lot of stuff happening in Iran right now, and the United States of America is attacking Iran. We have an actual war. There is an actual war going on, the United States against Iran. Right now, we're just bombing the place, sending some missiles over, and we're not bombing civilian targets or anything like that. We aren't targeting civilians. Of course, certain things do happen in war, and like I've said before, the people who suffer the most in a wartime situation are the people who have nothing in the world to do with the war. It's always the civilians, the children, like that. These people are going to suffer the effects of the war, but it's a necessary evil that's happening there in order to prevent Iran from controlling shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, which should be international water. America has to step in and attack Iran, and Iran is also using its influence to finance what do we call these? Proxy wars, proxy terrorist organizations and terrorist organizations. So Iran is doing some things that the rest of the world doesn't like, but the rest of the world is thinking, what can we really do? And Donald Trump President of the United States of America is attacking Iran because the rest of the world really can't do anything about it. America has the most powerful military on the planet. We have the most powerful Navy on the planet, the most powerful Air Force on the planet. So America is really obliged to do for all of the countries in the world what those countries can't really do for themselves. You see, the American Navy, the American military didn't just become the most powerful military overnight. America would not be able to have the most powerful military in the world if it weren't for the cooperation of American allies. If America uses our military power irresponsibly, the rest of the world could jump in and prevent that from happening. But once again, we live in a constitutional republic. America is recognizes itself as not just the leader of the world, but a very influential part of the world. And so one of the things that representatives, like Representative I want to be, one of the things that the representatives in the United States House of Representatives do is represent American opinion, the opinions and ideas of the average American living, breathing, working in America. Represent your opinions, your ideas, your philosophies, your wisdom, whatever you want, however you want America to act. That's part of being a representative. So America right now, most Americans are very much on the side of what President Trump is doing, because most Americans are realistic enough and they understand world situation enough to understand Iran is a brutal dictatorship. They are financing proxy wars all over the world. In Africa, they are financing, I think it's the Mujahideen, which is a Muslim organization. I don't want to say Islamic organization. They are an organization, a military organization who happen to observe, well, they say that they observe the Islamic principles, the Quran. They say that they are Muslims, and one of the things they do is they attack Christian groups and try to eliminate Christianity from Africa. And as a person who, I own a Quran, I'm not Muslim. I do own a Quran. It was given to me by an imam down in the Salem Islamic Center. Very nice person. Everybody who, if you have any questions, if you live in Oregon, in Salem, and you have any questions about the Islamic faith, go to the Salem Islamic Center, talk to the imam. Really nice guy. He gave me a Quran, gave me some other literature about the Islamic religion. Really nice guy, really smart person. But this is something that Iran is financing in Africa, is just a religious war against Christianity. So most of the people in America understand that Iran is a brutal dictatorship and the Iranian government is doing these things. And so most of the people in the world support what President Donald J. Trump is doing in Iran. And once again, we are not targeting civilians. We're targeting the government, the military infrastructure. We're trying to create an environment where the people in Iran can take back their government, can take back Iran. Because the people of Iran are wonderful people. They are wonderful, decent people. They just happen to be ruled by a brutal dictatorship. And so America is helping the people of Iran to take back their wonderful, beautiful country, Iran, wonderful, beautiful place, wonderful, beautiful people. And we want to help the people of Iran take back their country, turn it back into a constitutional republic, the way it was before the Islamic Republic took over. And so this is what America wants to help the people do, and this is what a representative over in Washington, D.C. has to understand, because the House of Representatives finances what the military is doing. So in order for the military to get money to do what they're doing, the House of Representatives has to agree that what is happening in Iran is worth America spending money on. And so that's where the representative like myself would have to understand what's going on there. Okay, so that's what's going on. That's why I would want to be a representative over there, because I do support what President Trump is doing. I think that by targeting the military infrastructure and the dictatorship, the leaders of the dictatorship, the people of Iran are going to have an opportunity to take back their country and turn it back to a constitutional republic the way it was before the Islamic Republic came around there and took over and started spending Iranian money on proxy wars that want to kill Christians and Jews and like that. So that's what I would recommend spending money on. So anyways, so in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is laying sea mines, the Hormuz Strait at risk. And this is what this is not a real picture, it's sort of a AI generated, but this is what the sea mines look like, some of them. And basically it just prevents shipping from going back and forth, and it's a bad thing. So the United States responds to naval presence and strategic pressure, efforts to maintain open trade routes. The global impact is rising oil prices, increased shipping risk, and market instability. The system inside a single point of failure can disrupt an entire system. The global disruption doesn't stay just in one region. It propagates through interconnected markets. Ireland, as an example, and this is where Ireland is at for people who aren't very good with geography. You have the United Kingdom, France, Germany, that's Europe. Ireland is this big, beautiful island. It's where they make Guinness beer, and all kinds of wonderful Irish people live there. They're really great. They all have the wool sweaters and so forth. Really, I've never been to Ireland, but it's on my bucket list. Europe's energy dependence, heavy reliance on imported energy, exposure to global supply disruptions, and of course, the Strait of Hormuz thing, the war that America is waging on Iran is having a negative effect on Europe's energy. Energy is priced globally. Local supply does not mean local pricing. The small economy within a larger system, limited control over global supply. And that's the case study for Ireland. Fuel prices, the immediate increase at the consumer level, and transportation costs are rising. The supply chain effects, the shipping delays, increased insurance costs, and reduced availability. So the economic ripple, well, the food prices, heating costs, and business operations. And if you know anything about Ireland, trust me, they have heating costs. They need to keep warm. And this is something that's happening over there. You have the protests and some blockades. You see that's a great big tractor. I don't know if John Deere tractor, if that's an American-made tractor, but that's a farmer and he's protesting. He's saying, well, if you don't provide us with fuel, we can't provide you with food. And that just makes sense. So the system model, the input disruption, which is the problem at the Strait of Hormuz, which is being caused by American activities there. The output is instability, which is to be expected. So the key insight: countries don't need to be involved in a conflict to feel its effects. Global systems are not the only ones under stress. Domestic systems can experience similar pressure, just like in Ireland, the domestic systems. Ireland is not attacking Iran, but they are suffering from the situation in Iran, and that's why the president wants to negotiate a ceasefire, wants to negotiate with the people of Iran, say, okay, this is what America wants. We don't want you to have a nuclear bomb. We want you to stop financing these proxy wars where Muslim people are going and killing Christian people. We want you to stop all this other stuff. And Iran is saying, no, we want to keep doing all this stuff. And if you're not going to let us do it, we're gonna prevent ships from going through the Strait of Hormuz. And so Ireland is suffering, not just Ireland, but all of Europe and all over the world, people are suffering because America is trying to get rid of the brutal dictatorship in Iran. But once again, I support what America is doing in Iran because our Declaration of Independence states not just American citizens, but all human beings are entitled to the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This brutal dictatorship in Iran is denying people in Iran their human rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So if America supports a government, the government that America supports has to be a government that also understands human rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The Iranian dictatorship is denying not just Iranian people, but people all over the world are being denied their rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness because the Iranian government is financing these proxy wars all over the place. You see, this is something that the Trump administration is doing that previous administrations didn't do and should have done. So this is why I definitely support what's going on. It's not because I'm a war hawk. It's not because I love the idea of war. It's just because this is a war supporting the values that all Americans agree, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that is what should be protected. The Iranian dictatorship is not supporting, in fact, preventing those things. So we are doing a good thing by toppling the government in Iran and allowing the Iranian people to take back their country, their nation, their government, and set up a constitutional republic the way it was before the Islamic Republic was set up in Iran. So anyways, so the government shutdown. As you can see, the government shutdown is happening. So the thing in Iran's happening. Well, there's some stuff happening in America too. And the government shutdown is a reaction to what's happening in America. And you can see on this sign here, end the roving patrols, enforce accountability, masks off, body cameras on. This is Chuck Schumer, and he is one of the leaders in the Democratic Party. And the Democrats in the House of Representatives are preventing a budget from going into effect. And because the budget has not gone into effect, the money that should be going to the American government workers, it's not getting to them. So this is why we have the government shutdown. And see, this is well, let's get on with things. What's the funding interruption in federal operations, result of unresolved budget disagreements, political disagreement, failure to reach compromise. Deeper reality is competing priorities with a complex system. The shutdowns can be used to force negotiation outcomes. Large systems slow down under disruption. Political incentives are strategic positioning and public perception considerations. The immigration impact, the border enforcement systems under stress, reduced administrative support. And what that means basically is one of the things that the Democrats have done over the past several administrations is allow people to come into America who are more likely to vote Democrat. Okay, and this is something I disagree with. Back a long time ago, Ronald Reagan did this thing where he told everybody in America, if you're an illegal alien and you've been in America for, I don't know how many years, like I think it was 4 years or 20 years or something like that, if you haven't committed any crimes, boom, you're an American citizen. And that was something that I disagreed with because, I mean, it's obvious that Ronald Reagan was just trying to get votes. The same thing, the Democrats are doing the same thing, just trying to get votes by allowing people to become American citizens. And this is one of the reasons that the previous administration just had an open borders policy. Well, with all of the people being deported, being taken out of America who were here illegally, Congress, the Democrats in Congress are saying, hey, we're losing votes. How do we keep those votes? Well, we're going to interfere. We're going to defund the police. We're going to defund ICE. We're going to defund America's military troops, the National Guard, and all this other stuff. And if they don't have any money, they can't operate. So this is kind of a strategic thing by the Democrats in Congress so that they can exercise control over something that they really shouldn't be exercising control over. The American people voted for Donald Trump and voted for Donald Trump to do certain things, and this is what the president is doing. The Democrats don't really like it because the Democrats are losing votes, they're losing power, so of course they want to prevent it from happening. So it really doesn't have much to do with the budget. Realistically, it has more to do with Democrats seeing that by removing all of the illegal aliens from the United States, they are losing power, losing votes. So that's really what the problem is. And so the government shutdown is not so much about real issues as it is about Democrats seeing that they're losing control, and they're trying to keep that control. It's a game that they're playing, and I don't like the game. You see, as a representative, if you send me to Congress, one thing I'm going to do is make sure that microphone doesn't move as much. As your representative, I would ensure that legislation is passed to finance what needs to be financed, and I would not be playing any of these games where all I want to do is retain my office. Representatives should represent the needs of the people, should not represent their own agenda. Representatives should be in Congress to do what's best for America and not necessarily what's best for their party, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Representatives are there to ensure that all American people enjoy the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's what a representative is there for, to ensure that the principles of the Constitution are upheld. Okay? It's not about retaining your seat or executing your personal agenda. You are there to serve the American people. I don't see our representatives of Oregon's 6th Congressional District representing the American people very well, which is why I want to take that office. So anyways, Federal workers are unpaid, reduce morale and stability. Systems don't need to stop to fail, they only need to degrade. And this is what I'm talking about with U.S. Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol and so forth. It's just getting them to degrade, which is going to affect their efficiency. Friction changes outcomes, and that's why they're playing the game now. Even under stress, systems can still perform, just not very well. Okay, now we're getting to the space program, which is, awesome thing. The Artemis 2 crew, while orbiting the moon, took that picture. And the Artemis missions, Artemis 1, this is the one that's completed. They did an uncrewed test of the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft. That happened a while ago. Well, the one that, if you look on the right side there, the Artemis 2, the first crewed mission to orbit the moon and return, that is what just happened this last week. They didn't land on the moon, but they did go around the moon, which is pretty awesome. Okay, I mean, the only country in the world that has ever sent people in any kind of proximity to the moon is the United States of America. America, we did that. We financed that. And the reason we did that is because the Constitution of the United States states, the preamble says, for a more perfect union, ensure domestic tranquility. You go down the load of promote the general welfare. Okay, that's one of the bullet points of the preamble to the Constitution, promote the general welfare. Secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity is another bullet point. So by developing the technology that is capable of sending people all the way to the moon and coming back, we are promoting the general welfare, because everybody in America benefits from the technology that was developed by the space program. And securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity 100 years from now. Well, it's been 50 years. It's been like 1969 was when we landed on the moon first. So it's been, what, 50-something years, okay? Everybody in America who is alive now has had their blessings of liberty secured by what happened back in 1969. So 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, Americans, if America still exists as a nation, will be enjoying the liberty, the advantages that were secured back in 1969. So it was overall a good thing. And this is one of the principles of the Democrats, which is, what did I say, investment, strategic investment. Where Republicans would probably say, we don't really need a space program. The Democrats said, yeah, we do need a space program. We need to go to the moon and back. And this was back in the 1960s. The Republicans were probably just like, well, let the Democrats have their way, like that. And it turned out to be good for everybody. And this is where, as a representative, I would support any kind of initiative that secures, that reflects the preamble to the Constitution and supports the concepts that America, all people have rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, so that is, those are the things that I would support. So vote for me if you want somebody in Congress that'll support all those things for you. And once again, you got to write in my name. Okay. Got to spell it correctly. Thomas W. Timbrooks. Just write that in, okay? So anyways, back to the space program. While focusing on problems, we often overlook achievements. And this is what we've been focusing on for a while now, is all the bad stuff that President Trump's been doing, saying, oh, going to war in Iran and all this other stuff. Oh, terrible, terrible stuff. Well, we just sent people to the moon and came back. So, I mean, that's a terrific achievement. NASA's role is coordinating complex high-risk missions. The Orion spacecraft, that's a spaceship that when it's designed for deep space travel, which is to the moon, capable of lunar missions. The Artemis program, okay, so the program is the Artemis and the spaceship is the Orion. Okay, so Orion spaceship and Artemis program. Returning humans to the moon, building long-term exploration capability. And the mission achievement here, the spacecraft was launched, traveled around the moon, and returned safely. So you have to realize America just sent 4 astronauts all the way to the moon and brought them back to Earth safely. That's pretty significant. I mean, it's only been done a few times, and America has done it all of those times. You know, if anybody talks about manned exploration of the moon, they are talking about the American space program. And that's all brought to you by the country that believes, you know, our founding documents saying life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. No country that is a brutal dictatorship, that is run by a government that is a brutal dictatorship, could ever hope to achieve what America has achieved. And you see, that's why America needs representatives who understand the value of our founding principles, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's something I appreciate and I understand. And that's something that I will stand up for if I get sent to Congress. Okay? So, anyways, thousands of engineers, precise coordination, zero margin for error. Complex space missions versus political gridlock. Okay, and this is something that's important. Is NASA is something that was financed. They had all the money to do it. They didn't have to worry about the government shutdown. All of the money was already appropriated to make sure NASA could do this stuff. It was beyond the political gridlock. Same system, different outcomes. Human nature focuses on problems, and we overlook success. Signals versus noise. And going back to this right here, focus on problems and overlook success. And this is just, it's human nature, okay? And I've said this before, people are rewarded for their success, but they're remembered for their failure. I mean, you can build 1,000 bridges or 1,000 skyscrapers. You can complete 1,000 flights around the world, but you'll be remembered for the one thing that you didn't do right. And that's just human nature. Okay, so we're rewarded for our success, we're remembered for our failures. And that's just human nature, and we focus on problems, we overlook success. Signals versus noise. The conflict crisis headlines, the signal is the capability of the progress and the achievement. And you see, this is something that I tend to do as a manufacturing engineer and a leader. I'm more of when I was in the Marine Corps, we were taught to be, leader. You focus on the success. You focus on the reality, the good stuff. You tend to filter out the noise because if you concentrate on the noise over the success, you're going to get confused and misdirected. You have to focus your attention on the things that work properly. See what you can fix if anything needs to be fixed, but focus on the good stuff. And not on the failures. And this is sort of against human nature, but understanding that this is human nature is the first step on the path to making things better. Okay, so anyways, recognizing both challenges and strengths. So the final integration here brings global systems, domestic systems, national capability. inputs constraints to outputs. The system is stressed, it is not broken. America's democracy, well, America's constitutional republic is stressed, it is not broken. America is not coming to an end. We're doing better than ever before. Systems adapt under pressure, which is what what we're talking about. We're not talking about ending or giving up. We're talking about just adapting, overcoming, and that's what leaders do. Leaders will help people to adapt and overcome problems. High level performance continues despite challenges. So I mean, we still have we've got the space for we've got all kinds of challenges in America. I mean, we've got all these problems happening all over the place. If you concentrate, if you focus on the problems and the noise, you're not really going to do anything. Nothing's going to happen that's going to benefit, all of America. Once again, the preamble to the Constitution says these 6 things are important. You have to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Those are the 6 things that the Constitution is supposed to provide Americans with the ability to do. That's what the Constitution is there for. As long as those 6 things are observed, as long as the government is doing those 6 things, then life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will be the natural result. That's what's going to happen. We observe those 6 principles of the Constitution, the preamble there, and life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are going to be the natural result. Okay, so that's we got there. Defined by both struggle and achievement. That's America. We're defined by achievement, struggle, all that stuff. So. Financial reflection, balance and perspective, avoid focusing only on problems. So we're going to avoid, Europe is in a pickle when it comes to energy, but hey, guess what? America has lots of oil and lots of coal, and there are a lot of tanker ships that are coming up to America and saying, fill her up. And these tanker ships are going straight to Europe and straight to Asia. They're supplying all of America's allies with all of the oil and all of the energy that they're going to need. Iran is only hurting Iran by preventing ships from going through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran is only hurting Iran by being a brutal dictatorship and financing these proxy wars all over the world. Okay, so America is doing the right thing in Iran. America is doing the right thing in America. We're supporting a noble cause by providing ICE with what they need in order to perform their job. I don't care what the hippies and the protesters are saying. They're running around with their little whistles, blasting their whistles and their megaphones in people's ears and fighting on the streets and everything, doing all this stuff because I don't know, apparently, I don't want to really get into that. I don't support what these people are doing on the streets to prevent ICE from doing their jobs. And I keep on talking about the hippies. Actually, you know what? Today's hippies are way different than the hippies that I grew up with. Hippies are actually people who support what America is doing. They're peaceful, loving, caring people. They're really beautiful, wonderful people themselves. I think these people who are protesting what ICE are doing, they're paid protesters. They aren't doing this because it's something that is right or they care about it. They're doing it for a paycheck. And the reason they're being so hostile and violent is because their job is on the line. So it's really their job to be protesters. It's their job to do this. And that just, it doesn't seem right to me that somebody's going to accept a paycheck for protesting. If you're going to protest something, that's fine. Go ahead and protest whatever you want to protest. That's your right, First Amendment. Protest whatever you want. But whenever you're paid to protest, you're supporting somebody else's agenda, not yours. So I have a problem with what they're doing because they aren't supporting an agenda they actually care about or know about. They're supporting an agenda for a paycheck. And that's just, I have a problem with that. So anyways, get back to this here. Closing message, instability travels through systems and so does progress. Sometimes you have to look up all the way to the moon to remember what we're capable of. And okay, so that's all for today. This is the raccoon of ended presentations. That just happened to be something I downloaded from the internet, nothing major there. And these are the 10 objectives I have if I ever do get to go to Washington. I want to remove $5 trillion from national debt, propose the 28th Amendment, secure America's digital infrastructure, tuberculosis and polio screening, 5-pillar blueprint to empower local government, protecting our law enforcement through the Reasonable Operations Space Act, requiring early measles vaccination, American Talent First Act, the research into immunotherapy for curing cancer, and in-person voting. Those are the things I support. I also support President Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. I think the guy's great. I think he's doing an amazing job. I think he really deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I also support Tulsi Gabbard for president in 2028. I think that she'd make an amazing president. I would have voted for her back in 2020. If the Democrats would have nominated her, I would have voted for her in 2020. Make America great again. Yeah, that's a terrific thing. But I want to make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. And you see the little map in the bottom right there. That's Oregon's 6th Congressional District. It goes from Salem up to Portland. And it's kind of gerrymandered there and everything, but that good-looking former Marine on the left there, that's the guy that wants to be your representative. And so, yeah, basically the takeaway I want to provide here is the understanding that America is a uniquely amazing place with uniquely amazing people. And people who come to America, most of them want to take part in this experiment in democracy that is our constitutional republic. Most people want to come to America to make America a better place. But there are people who come to America just to sponge off the system or to try to get rich quick or whatever. But I just think that most people are good, decent human beings, and we have to watch out for who we allow to come to America. So yes, we have to promote migration into America because we want wonderful, amazing people from all over the world to come here and be part of the American experience. But we have to be realistic. We have to observe that there are people who want to come here and do bad things because they have a selfish agenda. And that's inside America also. The people in America have selfish agendas. They just want to retain their position in government. They don't really want to help. They just want to stay in power. And so this is a critical difference between good representation and bad representation. You vote for me, I'll try to be a good representative. I won't be looking to support my own personal agenda or my party's agenda. I will be supporting the American agenda. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, following the doctrine of the Constitution of the United States in order to make sure that happens in a good, decent American way. Just like Superman, truth, justice, and the American way and all that stuff. So anyways, that's my presentation. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope hope I made a good impression on you. Thank you very much for joining me, and God bless and take care.